My subscriber, Holden, recently shared his true story with us, and it's one that will make you rethink everything about relationships. Here's how it all went down. Holden always thought his life was perfect. He had a stable marriage with Celeste, built on trust, love, and a comfortable routine that gave him a sense of security. Their home was warm and inviting, filled with the sound of their children's laughter that echoed through the halls, making every day feel special. He never doubted Celeste's loyalty. To him, she was more than just his wife. She was his partner for life, the one person he could always count on, no matter what challenges life threw their way. But sometimes, people's true feelings only reveal themselves when the unexpected happens. And that's exactly what occurred that night. Celeste asked him to talk after the kids went to bed. Her voice sounded casual, but there was something in her eyes, something unsettling that told Holden she was about to say something that would change everything. With no clue what was coming, he sank into the couch, thinking they were just going to talk about their day, or maybe discuss their weekend plans. But Celeste went straight to the point. "What do you think about going to a swingers party?" The question hit him like a thunderclap. Holden blinked in disbelief, unsure if he'd heard her right. Maybe he'd misunderstood. Maybe she was joking. But when he saw the faint smile on her face, he realized she was serious. A swingers party? He asked, hoping she'd backpedal, but she didn't. "Yeah," Celeste repeated, her tone more eager now. "Something new, something different. It could be fun." The word fun sounded so strange coming from her, it almost made him laugh nervously. But his stomach sank instead. All those years together, and he had never seen any sign that Celeste might feel this way. They'd never even discussed dissatisfaction or looked for something beyond their bond. Yet here she was, casually suggesting this, like it was a normal part of life. Holden leaned forward, trying to wrap his head around it. "Are you serious?" Celeste sighed and rolled her eyes as though he were being naive. "Of course, I'm serious. Lots of people do it, and everything goes back to normal afterward. It's just a way to break out of our routine." Breaking out of their routine, that hit Holden hard. So, their marriage, what he thought was a solid, unwavering partnership, had become a monotonous cycle for Celeste. Instead of discussing how to rekindle their spark, she thought the answer was to bring others into their lives. Holden took a deep breath, trying to fight back the emotions welling up inside him. "This makes no sense," he said. "You want me to watch you with another man? You want me to be with another woman, right in front of you?" Celeste shrugged, as if it were no big deal. "I don't see a problem with it. As long as we both agree, it wouldn't be cheating. It wouldn't be cheating." Holden repeated, the words almost choking him. The idea that his wife could even consider this felt like a punch to the gut. But what frightened him more was how natural she made it sound, as though it wouldn't change anything, as though it wouldn't ruin everything they'd built together. Holden could feel a lump forming in his throat. He'd never been a jealous or controlling person, but this crossed a line. "I'm not doing it." Celeste crossed her arms and let out an exasperated sigh. "Why not? You won't even consider it." "Because it goes against everything I believe in, everything we've built. I don't want to share you with anyone." She rolled her eyes again, clearly frustrated. "You're just shutting yourself off from new experiences. Do you really think it would make me a worse person?" Holden could hardly believe the direction this conversation was taking. "It's not about being better or worse, Celeste. It's about respect. It's about commitment. You really see no issue with this?" For a moment, she looked away. Then a small, almost mocking smile tugged at her lips. "I think you're overreacting, but fine. You don't have to decide right now. Just think about it, okay?" She stood up, as if she had just suggested a weekend getaway, not a life-altering shift in their marriage. Holden stayed where he was, paralyzed with the weight of the conversation. This wasn't just a silly idea, it was a warning sign of something much bigger. For the first time in their marriage, He felt like everything was on the verge of falling apart. For the next few days, Holden tried to shake off what had happened. He wanted to believe Celeste had spoken out of impulse, that it was nothing more than a fleeting fantasy that would fade away. But deep down, he knew better. The way she had insisted, the casualness with which she treated such a serious matter. It wasn't just a passing whim. The confirmation came faster than he expected. One evening, as they were watching TV, Celeste casually brought it up again, as though it were no different than choosing a restaurant for dinner. "Did you think about what I said?" she asked, her voice easy, but her gaze unwavering. Holden closed his eyes for a moment, letting out a long sigh. "I don't need to think about it. My answer is still the same." Celeste turned to face him fully now, her expression hardening. "Holden, you're ignoring something that could be good for both of us. You always said you trust me, right?" His brow furrowed. "This isn't about trust, Celeste. It's about respect." Celeste shook her head, clearly losing patience. "Respect. I'm not cheating on you. I'm not hiding anything. I'm making room for us to experience something together. Something that could make our relationship stronger." Holden couldn't hold back the bitter laugh that bubbled up. "Stronger? How, exactly, is sleeping with other people supposed to make our relationship stronger?" She sighed, as though explaining the obvious to someone who just didn't get it. "Because when a couple allows themselves new experiences, they form a stronger, more honest bond. We've been together for so long. Why not bring something new into the relationship?" His stomach twisted, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. This wasn't the woman he married, or maybe it was, and he just hadn't seen it before. "You really believe that?" he asked, staring at her. Celeste didn't hesitate. "Yes, and I wish you believed it too." That was the moment Holden knew that their marriage might never be the same. The first real taste of fear about their future. Celeste wasn't just considering it. She had already made up her mind that night he barely slept, or rather, he lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Celeste's calm, breathing next to him's. If nothing had changed, but inside him everything was falling. Apart came the final blow to days later during breakfast. Celeste played her last card. "If I recorded everything, would you feel safer?" Holden nearly dropped his cup. "What? If I filmed it that way, you'd see it's not a big deal, that it wouldn't change." Anything between us for a moment, Holden thought she was just testing his limits, but Celeste was looking at him with complete seriousness. This was where they had ended up. It wasn't an invitation anymore. It wasn't a request, it was an ultimatum that was. When Holden knew "If you go, our marriage is over," he spoke firmly without any hesitation, delivering a non-negotiable verdict. Celeste blinkered, though she hadn't expected that serious more than ever. She stared at Atham for a few seconds, sighing. Him up Thench gave a small smirk. "I think you're reverting." She stood up, grabbed her car keys, and left. Holden stayed there, at the table, feeling the world cave in around him. Celeste's mind was already made up, and now he had to make his. Holden remained where he was motionless, listening as Celeste's car drove away. The silence that settled over the house felt heavier than ever. His wife had made her choice, and now he needed to make his. The marriage he believed was rock solid, built on trust and respect, just collapsed before his eyes. And the worst part, Celeste didn't seem the least bit sorry, unsure, or hesitant. For her, it was just a natural step, a game without consents. But for Holden, it was a betrayal even before it happened. He sat there at the table for a few minutes, trying to process it all. His heart raced, his chest felt heavy, and the only thing new was that he couldn't just stay put anymore. He looked at the door, at Thecard's car seats, at all the signs of a routine that until a few weeks ago had believed Shackle. Celeste was gone, but he was still there. That was what needed to change. Holden stood, went to the bedroom and grabbed his laptop. Something pushed him to find answers, to figure out what else drove Celeste's actions. But when he opened the email account they shared, the one used for streaming subscriptions and household bills, He discovered something next. An email from the night before, an invitation. Celeste had already confirmed. Be at the party before event. To him that morning, she hadn't made the decision over breakfast. She decided long before. It was worse than I imagined, acting on impulse. He opened her browsing history. He'd never done that for. He'd never had a reason to but know. He had to know, and what he found confirmed his worst fears. Celeste had been looking at parties, forums, and communities. She wasn't exploring a sudden curiosity, she was already involved in that world. A chill ran down Holden's spine. If Celeste was already in that scene before mentioning it, was that really the first time she'd done anything like this? Was the party that night just the first stone where she felt comfortable enough? Tobe opened with him about it. He wanted toast up looking. But couldn't he? Kept scrolling through the historic conversation. Pages, invitations, confessions on one link. He saw a private group she joined, and among Thackerman's, one in particular caught his a post from her. My husband doesn't know I ate, but I'm in. I can't wait. It felt like a punch in the gut. She wasn't just considering a possibility. She decided long before she ever spoke to him. The conversation about filming it, about trying it together. It was all just an act. Holden closed, fell up top, and took a deep breath, trying to keep his hands steady. His marriage was already over. He just hadn't known it until now. But if Celeste thought she could play with him and walk away unscathed, she was dead wrong. He grabbed his phone and got to work. First heckled. A lawyer night hadn't even fallen, and he was already filing for divorce. Then he did something he never thought he would. He grabbed an external hard drive and copied every piece of evidence he'd found. If Celeste wanted to destroy their marriage, she'd face the consequences. Hours passed. It was almost midnight when Holden heard the car pulling into the garage. He stayed on the couch, unmoving, staring at the blank TAV screen. The door opened. Celeste walked in, her hair a bit messy, her makeup but still smiling, a smile that said she'd had a good time, a smile with no hint of guilt. Hey, she said, tossing her keys on the living room table. Still, Holden looked at her for the first time. He didn't see the woman he loved. He only saw a stranger. Holden stayed seated on the couch, watching Celeste come in. As if nothing was out of the ordinary, she tossed the keys on the table, took off her shoes, and let out a satisfied sigh. The scent of her perfume builded with another smell he didn't recognize. A detail he'd never forget. Stole awake? She asked, flashing a lazy smile. It took Holden a few seconds to reply. His mind was still absorbing Thessany, every detail he never thought he'd witness. Yes, he said, his voice colder than I intended. Celeste noticed. Oh, Holden Kumian, she said, rolling her eyes and heading to the kitchen for a glass of water. Didn't start. He leaned forward, slightly resting his elbows on his knees. Start what? She gave a half smile. All this drama. I knew you'd react like this. Holden watched her, startled by her cynicism, the way she spoke, as if he were a problem, as if this was all just his stubbornness. You knew? She took a sip of water, nodding casually. Sure, you've always been so traditional, but seriously, you're blowing this way out. Off proportion. He felt his stomach, not blowing it out. Off proportion. Yes, look. I went, had fun, and here I am. Everything's still the same. Things changed. Holden let out a short dry laugh. Nothing's changed. Celeste shrugged, like she really believed it all. Still here. I'm still here. Our marriage is still the same. That was the last straw. Holden got up slowly. No rush, nor shouting. His eyes were blank, and for the first time, Celeste seemed to realize something was off. I want you to leave. His voice was firm and wavering. Celeste blinked a few times, shabrew throwing. What, you heard me? Get out of me house. She let out a nervous laugh. Oh, stop it. Holden, you're overreacting. We'll talk tomorrow. Anthea is no tomorrow. Celeste's smile faded. You're Holden looked her in the eye, and she knew it wasn't just a threat. He picked up his phone and typed something quickly. In seconds, Celeste heard a notification pop up on her own phone. Confused, she pulled it from her purse, unlocked the screen, and then her face went pale. What's this? Holden crossed his arms, a backup Celestio upon the video, and her breath caught one. She realized it was of her the exact moment. She recorded herself having fun at the party with the same stranger she insisted would change nothing. How did you get this? She stammered, shock repressing any remaining arrogance. You're not as discreet as you think, Celeste. You're not as careful, Celeste's ice widened her hand, trembling around Thefan. You hack my phone, you gave me to your email, remember the one woos for our streaming services, and Bill Shu forgot your cloud does automatic loads. She opened and closed her mouth, speechless. Holden stepped closer. You'd been planning this for weeks. This party wasn't some impulse or sudden idea. You were already in that world, long before you were told me, Holden. I can explain. He held up a hand to stop her. No need. You explained everything the moment Yao walked out that door tonight. Desperation fondly flickered in her eyes. That mean I've already filed for divorce? He cut her off. Celeste stumbled back a step as if she'd been punched. What? And I'm going to fight for full custody of the kids? No, she panicked. Holden, please don't do this. He looked at her with a calmness. That's her. You already did. Holden grabbed his car keys and walked to Theodore. Celeste, now completely desperate, ran over and grabbed his arm. Listen, Wecken, fix this. He paused, looking at her like it was for the last time. You threw away what we had, now deal with the consequences. Then, with nothing left to say, he left, leaving Celeste alone in the living room, clutching the phone. That the proof of her own mistake. Holden drove around with no destination, every mile reminding him of the weight of Waith just done. His marriage was over more than that. The entire illusion he had built over 8 years had shattered before his eyes. He'd always thought he knew Celeste, that they shared an unbreakable bond, that she would never toss a sit of everything they had, but the truth, she'd thrown it all away a long time ago. He'd just been slow to see it. His phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Celeste. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again and again. Desperate messages started piling up on the screen. Holden, please, pick up, forgive me, we need to talk. It was a mistake. It means nothing to me. Don't keep me from the kids. I'm begging you. Holden let out a bitter. Now it meant nothing. Now it was a mistake. Now she was begging. She was begging. She wasn't Siri. When she left that night, she wasn't worried about consequences. When she came back, smiling, sure, she just resumed life like nothing had happened. No. It was too late. He parked near Thepok, where he used to take the kids on Sundays. At this hour, it was empty, lit only by tall street lamps, casting long shadows on the ground. He got out of Veka, breathing in the chilly night air. Han needed a moment of silence to gather his thoughts before taking his next step. Becca's, even though his marriage was dead, the real battle was just starting. New Celeste wouldn't accept the divorce, Sicily, much less losing custody of Thekids. But he wouldn't let his children grow up in a home where commitment and respect were disposable. He picked up his phone and finally replied, "There's nothing left to discuss. My lawyer files everything tomorrow. See you in court." He blocked her number before she called. Respond. The divorce process was quick bet, anything but simple. Celeste tried to argue to defend herself, though, play the few cards she had left checkeried in front of the judge. Tried to Tomaki herself look like the victim. Sorish was sorry that she still loved Holden, that she wanted to rebuild their family, but the evidence was solid. Video Smess's browser history, there was nothing to dispute. When the ruling came out, Holden knew that was the real end. Custody of the children went to him. Celeste could visit them, but only under specific conditions. How she behaved over the next few months would decide whether Chef kept that right. She lost more than she could have imagined. Holden found no pleasure in watching her fall. It wasn't about revenge, never was. It was simply inevitable result of her actions. A few months later, Holden was spilt in his life. The pain was still there, but it felt different. It was no longer a suffocating weight on his chest. It was just a scar, something that once hurt but now served as a reminder. Thekids were fine. In fact, they seemed happier. The atmosphere at home was lighter, without the silent tension he hadn't even realized was there before he and him. He relearned how to live without Celeste. He relearned how to trust Hella and how to be happy one afternoon while taking the kids to that same park where he'd spent that decisive night. Heron into a neighbor, Garrison, a quiet Manwo, always spoke calmly and kept to himself. They exchanged greetings and Holden noticed something weighed on Garrison's expression. I wanted to tell you something, Garrison said, hesitating. Something you might want Tokno. Holden frowned. What is it? Neighbor looked away for a moment, cursing his words carefully. Celeste effort. Party. She went to Holden, felt his heart beat a bit faster. What about it? Garrison pressed his lips together and sighed. It wasn't the first time. Silence. For a moment it felt like Thewald shrank. Holden kept his eyes on Garrison, trying to process what he discovered. What do you mean? The neighbor scratched the back of his neck, looking comfortable. I saw her several times. Before that party she'd leave when you weren't around. Always very discreet. I thought maybe it was just a friend or some errand, but when I heard about the divorce, I put two and two together. Holden closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the bitter taste of the truth on his tongue. What he suspected, what he feared, what he'd always tried to ignore was real. Celeste had been cheating on him for a long time. That party was in beginning. It was just the moment Chef felt comfortable enough to reveal who she really was, and oddly enough, hadn't feel anger. Because right then, he knew the divorce wasn't a loss, it was errorless. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.